Hi everybody and welcome back to the painting channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little oil for you. It's going to be a sunrise over my bay at Dymchurch. Now I do a lot of them and I love painting skies, as you all know. But this one I'm doing with just 3 colours, well actually 4 if you look at the umber that I generally draw with, but essentially a red, a yellow and a blue, and keeping my palette really condensed. And I want to show you why and what I'm doing and how it can affect the whole of the painting. So let's dive straight in and get straight on with it. Okay, so diving straight in, and let me just quickly talk about the colours and the things that I'm using. Now the first thing is that obviously I use my burnt umber, which is a Michael Harding colour. The second one is an introduction of one called Cyan. Now Cyan I wasn't sure about, but I have had a friend of mine confirm it for me, that this is actually the same as Michael Harding's Cyan blue. The only difference is that this is using Damar resin in the mix, where Michael is not. Now the thing is that the reason that I'm using these 3 colours, there is a big school of thought out there on using process colours, those colours that are closest to those that are used in the printing industry. And I'm using 3 transparent colours, so I can get a really deep dark if I want to, unlike opaque colours. And the magenta is obviously, as it says, magenta, and the cyan, and also Indian yellow. I think Indian yellow, being a transparent yellow, is the closest to a process yellow that I can find. I may stand to be corrected, but I think that's the case. Now I searched for a cyan, and what I didn't realize that when I got this one, that I mean all colors have a code on the back here, and this one is PB, where are we, PB 15/3, which is exactly the same as Michael Harding's Cyan blue. And I guess that the thing is, it doesn't matter what a manufacturer calls their paint. You should always go on that chemical number. That will describe each and every paint, even if they call it sky blue pink. If it's got 15-3 on it, it is Cyan blue, and it is not cyan as this label suggests it is. Although it is, because that's what they've called it. But if you want to be sure, then just check that number. So I got to say thank you to one of my students who took the trouble to look that up for me. And it did confirm my suspicions that Cyan blue and Cyan were one of the same paint. So whereas I already used Cyan blue, once I finish this, I don't need to go and buy another one of these. I just go back to my Cyan blue and we'll carry on. Or I may just swap it out anyway. But I'm digressing and I didn't want to do that. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of these paints. There are some already mixed up on the palette, and although they're from a painting earlier, I'm just going to suggest 1 or 2 little areas of drawing through here, just getting myself a nice horizon for the, not for the sea. The sea I'm going to put in about there, something like that. And then I'm just going to suggest the arc of that nice piece of water in the sand. I want to make this a fairly quick painting. I don't really want this to be a laboured one, because it is merely a suggestion of the use of these paints and not a lot more. I'm just using the sunset, or the sunrise in this case, merely as a way of describing it to you. I'm just going to put 1 or 2 lines in just like this, just giving me a rough indicator of where I want things to appear and disappear, etc. And I'm just going to put in just a little round mark there to suggest where I want that sun, just off center. It's nice to have it off center, and it allows the eye to sort of move around the painting instead of being fixated on one mark right in the middle of everything. So now I'm going to use a bigger brush, and I'm going to go in for a Dagger Brush, which I really do like these, from Rosemary & Company. This is a 1/2 inch, what they call an evergreen. You can tell that by the bristle. And I'm going to mix up a little bit of, I think my liquid has gone a little bit stiff on the side there, but I'm just going to come in, I'm going to mix some of the cyan blue, or If you're using Michael's, which it will be Phthalo Cyan blue, and as I say, I did have my suspicions way at the beginning. Gonna add just a little touch, the merest touch of some magenta into that, and I'm just going to come in and take this across the sky. I'm actually going to put into one side a little bit more magenta just to make this a little deeper blue up in the top part of the sky. And I want to bring this through fairly fast as I possibly can. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter how fast I end up trying to make these paintings, they do tend to go on for a little while, but bear with me on that one. We are always working harder to try and make these a little faster. I'm going to bring in a little bit more white. I'm going to start tapping in just a little bit of yellow, but be careful, it will turn to a green on you very, very quickly. I'm not overly worried. I'm going to come in with a lot more blue though and take that out like that, and just mix the two together, put a nice line through in this fashion, and then just come back, clean my brush, and I do need to put some more medium out. Bear with me while I just figure out what I did with all that. Right, back to the plot. Nice big dollop of liquid, which is the original liquid in the tube, and it's in pasto, so it doesn't flow over. It doesn't need a receptacle to hold it in place. It will just stay on the palette just like a tube of paint. I am going to put in some more white, and I will probably need to refresh one or two of the other colours as we move forward. Nice piece of rag in hand, and let's just carry on the painting process. So I'm going to add some cyan to white and a bit more of the magenta, just to come back in and play around with these values here into the sky as we then come on down into these other colours further down into the surrounding sky, as it were. A little bit more of that in there just to make it move, bringing it on down. Very quick painting, I say, I hope. And just give it a nice little blend, a bit more blue and a little bit more of the magenta, a bit more blue, just to come back in at the top and give that a lovely darker, because the sky is just lightening up. It's just, the sun is just rising above the horizon, and yeah, it's very early in the morning, and it's fairly early in the year too. Right, there we go. And that starts that, and clean the brush because I don't really want to contaminate this area here. So I'm going to come back in and moving along my palette with mixes, add some more yellow to that and bring that down into this now and let that get richer, a little whiter, a little less blue, and some more yellow coming into that as it comes down. Make that a little of a stronger mix coming off, a bit more to move that around. And look at that, that suddenly comes out beautiful, and we can mix those two areas together as this thing comes down, and it starts now picking up a little bit of the red color. So we're going to come in, and there's a little bit of a dirty haze, but I'm going to use the magenta. Now the thing is that when you're using three colors, even though that they are beautiful colors, the magenta and the Indian yellow, because magenta has got quite a bit of blue in it, it's going to make a dirty, corrupted orange. You're never going to get that purity of orange that you would do if you was using, say, cadmium red light, which has got a lot of yellow in but no blue. And to that end, you have to be aware of the limitations that using three colors will have upon you or upon your painting. It's not the end of the world. It's just that if you know that, you try and create other colors around that orange just to make it lift up a little bit. But you're never going to get that exciting, real piercing, burning orange color that you would do by using a color or a red and a yellow that have no blue in them at all. So just be aware of that. But this is coming on down very, very nicely. I'm going to add some more magenta and some more yellow together, just keeping it a little stronger as it comes down through this part here. Just a little tap on each side. That is quite orange. It does look quite orange, but it's still not as good as it could be. But as I say, it's a trade-off, and if you want to use 3 color primaries and just work in this way, it's a fantastic way of working, because you do of course understand so much more about color mixing over time that you would ordinarily miss by having tons of colors on your palette and using each and every one of them with no discrimination or sort of very little knowledge and application. Right, I'm going to come in here with this blood yellow, not blood yellow, you know what I mean, this lovely yellow color, as it then goes away and just kisses that other color. Really rich and warm. And I'm going to save these mixes on here. Don't be so quick to lose them, because we've still got to come into all these areas, and some of these we would like to use again. Now I'm going to come back in with a little bit of the red down through here, and my sun is going to go in there somewhere. So I need to put some real yellow under there just to give that some weight, like so, and leave that area strong. I'm going to take it all the way down to what will be the horizon, just there, just to indicate that at the moment. But then either side I'm going to start lifting out the red and bringing that red back in very, very quickly, like so, and make some more of that lovely red color, bring in some of that yellow, and just take that off and away, like so. Now there are no apparent clouds in my sky. There are some vapor trails. I will put those in. I do get slammed by friends of mine for putting these vapor trails in, and if you're watching, you know who you are. But yeah, I find them as a modern phenomena. They are what they are, and although you don't necessarily agree with the pollution that aircraft or whatever these trails exist and do, the conspiracy feeling is that these are spraying chemicals in the outer atmospheres or the high atmospheres, and that's why they hang around so long. I don't know. You know, it is what it is, and we know we live with modern times, and you expect certain things to go on for our hopeful benefit, but it's not always the case, I know. Anyway, I'm digressing. I'm enjoying this. This is fun, because this is me in my element. I just love painting these wonderful skies. I'm introducing some of this blue back from earlier, and I'm going to run it all the way through the real baseline of the sea like that. Keep your horizon lines as carefully as sort of straight as you possibly can. Now these are gone a little bit haywire. I'm going to put a little bit of more violet into that, because they went a little bit too yellowish. You can see the difference as I was just mixing that through then. And I'm just going to run that all the way through here again with that slightly darker pigment of violet. And that's where these dagger brushes really come in, because they've got a very long section here that you can do so much with in that regard. Now I'm just going to bring out one or two of these lovely violety colours to suggest that they are mixing with the reds. That's already quite high. Let's just bring it down through here. It looks like a bit of a nonsense at the moment, but I'm going to quickly blend that off now. I'm going to use another smaller, I've got 2 or 3 sizes. These are more rosemary evergreens, and you can see that one is a 3/8 and one is a 1/4 inch. This one being the 1/2 inch, the largest one that's produced. I'm just going to come in here with a medium one, just put that one down for a minute, and just start to blend some of these shapes. That was a little bit dry from the previous painting. Just clean it, wet it up, dry it off, and come back in and just use these two to fuse together the lovely colours that we are using. Maybe a little more magenta as it comes in here, and let them fuse together. That's all it needs, just to gently bring in that lovely horizon colour of red. I've probably got mine a little higher than the photo. I'm not overly worried by that. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't sort of exactly match up. I'm going to bring a little bit more yellow and maybe a tap of red into this higher area through there, and let those two areas blend like that. That's what I'm trying to get. Now I don't want to bring all the way down through here blending and then come back up here, because I'm going to drag paint from here to here and I'm going to wreck this colour. So be very careful how you blend. Just treat it in little stages, and before I come in here I'm just going to come over to this side and repeat that process again. Maybe a little more of the red in there before I come all the way down like that. Clean off and then just blend away and soften the transition between the two. That's got a little bit heavy there, so I'm going to come in with a bit more magenta into that mix like that. Clean off and just come back in and gently tease the two areas together all the way through like that. Very simply done, and it's a lovely little transition, and you can just refine those marks a little more if you want to. There we go, and let that come on down, and then I've just got to pop back into this side. I want to drag it this way. That's why I hesitated, because I just wanted to make that a little warmer, and let that come into a purer orange down through here as it comes in and under that sun, a little bit more like a blood red colour, and gently tease these two areas together like that, then back out into the rest of it, and so you've got that beautiful morning light. You can just see that sun is just cresting across these horizon clouds. Now I mean, the nice thing about doing a sunrise or a sunset or even any cloudscape is that it changes, always, constantly changing. And you know, you may have this particular scene one day, the next day you'll come back and it'll be so different. I remember a couple of years ago, I've sold most of them. There are still a few available actually. And a couple of years ago, I actually, throughout the late winter or during the winter into the spring, I was over my beach at sunrise or just before sunrise with my dogs ready to go walking every day, and I did 66 days with the exception of one or two that were really raining and awful, but 66 paintings I made, and every one of them was so vastly different to the next. Not one day was close to another day in those 66 days that I did, and I never forget it, and I will repeat that exercise. In fact, I will talk about something else that's happening at the moment with me certainly, and with many other artists at the moment, and you will see some of them offered during this this lockdown period on a temporary basis. I'm taking part in a support artists pledge. Basically, it's a rallying cry really for all us artists and creatives who are in lockdown. We have no access to our galleries and no support network in regard to much of that. So someone had a brilliant idea to create this Instagram tag that has no other bearing than other allowing artists to display their work that they're happy to sell for £200. No more. They can do it for less, but no more. And when every artist in there has reached £1,000 in sales, then they agree to buy the work of another artist. And this whole thing has just gone crazy. And a friend of mine put me onto it. I had no idea it existed. And a friend of mine put me onto it. So today, being Thursday, the last day of April, I've decided that I will get involved with that, and I will start producing, not producing, but putting posts out 4 times a day, and with the idea of selling some of my previous back catalogue of paintings that I have. And yeah, hopefully it will catch on, and hopefully 1 or 2 people will grab a bargain, because I can say they're less than half, well, much less than half of their normal prices in most cases. Not all, but most cases. So it's worth catching and picking up a bargain. Right, I digress. I'm going to come in with a little bit of yellow, because I wanted to put in some of these lovely Vapour Trails, but I want them to be lighter. So now that doesn't work, because my colour there is much sort of darker than my sky around it. So I do need to bring another value of yellow through here, like so, as like an intermediate value. I can see it in the painting. In fact, there's just a little violety haze in there. I'm going to bring that into the mix. Instead of the yellow, just a little bit more violet as it goes up into the blue, like so. And I think that will work. I didn't see it quite straight away, but it is there. And I'm just going to bring that in. Just a quick subtle blend of colour like that. And maybe a little bit more as it goes on through this way. Now the thing about using 3 colours is that every colour mix that I use throughout this painting, without exception, okay, I have only used the umber to do the drawing with, but every subtle mix that I make is related to every other one. This blue mix is related to this mix, to this mix, to this mix. They're all related, because there are little components of each of those 3 colours going into making these mixes, and so they're all related. And because of that, what happens is that you create a beautiful harmony across the whole of the painting. My painting's creeping off the board. You're creating a harmony throughout the whole painting, and that is really good, because if you use tons of colours, I assure you any such harmony pretty much has gone out the window. So when you restrict your palette in this way, you are creating a wonderful, wonderful harmony, because each and every colour you use is a mix of only 3 colours that you have at your disposal, and you're therefore making relationships, as it were, between each and every one. So I'm going to use that now, and I'm going to take that off over there, and that's pretty much all I want to do with that, just to suggest that little light colour. And let's just take that off to a paler colour through here, just get that back under control. Let that come across and blend, soften. There we go. Now the board I'm using is a Picture Framers. I use this extensively. A Picture Framers MDF, and that is that it is a 2.4mm board, not a 3mm board. Generally there are several manufacturers of MDF in this country, and they all differ in quality. And the ones that I use, I'm not sure where they're made, but the supply company, my local picture framer suppliers, because you know, when we're not in lockdown, I'm also got a picture framing company on the side of my art, and because of that, there is this situation where the thicker board is not as good as the thinner board, where you can only use one side of the thicker board, because the flip side, sort of, when it gets a bit damp or a bit moist, it starts to get a bit fluffy. This board stays good whichever side, and you can gesso it up and seal it off, and yeah, it makes great painting boards, and a lot of plein air painters use it. It's an ideal surface, and of course what you're doing is, when you're not painting on canvas, so it just means to say that your storage is so much easier when you're using boards to do what you're doing. I'm just going to come across here with a little bit of yellow, just to blend these areas out and get rid of those and let those just drift into other values as they go away. Oh, something just fell down. And just let that whole, and the whole of this sky pretty much is done. But what we will do is we'll go back in with some of the subtleties. So let's just quickly bash on down into the sea itself. And for that I'm going to be using predominantly the yellow and the blue, but I really want to infuse it with a lot of magenta in there, a lot of violet colour. So we get a sort of dirty colour coming through here, something like that, maybe a tad more blue and yellow coming into it as well. Certainly under here it will have a lot more of those values going on as it climbs its way up to the sky and the horizon line. Just gently bring them together and let that go all the way off to the side. And you want you think that the sea is quite light. It is, but it's not as light as other areas, and to make other areas ping later you need to keep the value of your sea a little bit reserved, a little bit held back as it were, so that you've got all this wonderful dark value. And just gently, very gently as I speak to you, just fusing the horizon and the sea together so they blend nicely and softly. No real hard edges. You're going to get some, but I'm just softly making those come together, and hopefully gently does it. We'll take that all the way through this side too and do the same over here, holding my breath a little bit as I go. Bit more blue, bit more magenta to the outer edges, especially at the top. That's probably a little too aggressive. Come back in there and temper that down. And there we go. That works, and I'm going to do the same so that it sort of marries up on this side too. Just take that off and just that section through there. Very, very carefully. There we are. I think we just about got there. And then I'm going to lighten this back up and let this sort of come down and become a lot paler, a lot yellower as it comes down to the shore. Like so. And again, just blend the two areas together. At this stage, we're not trying to put that much detail in. We're really trying to set the scene and get these color areas done. There's an awful lot more yellow. I'm going to come back in with some white and using some of this yellow, and I'm just going to come scraping all the way through here where the sun is sort of having an effect on the overall color of the sea, like so. Just very quick taps just to suggest it, and all the way through to there, and you've got that lovely soft pale look to the sea that we just need to put in place. We're going to do more to it, but that's just the start. Alright, clean your brush, come back out, and let's not go in directly with our light water. Let us go in with some blue and some yellow, making a real green, and then some of the red, and we're going to make it very dark. Now I could have very easily dove straight into the burnt umber that I have sitting on the side. It would have been perfect for the sand, but I did say that I want to just use these three colors, and to that end I'm sticking with it. So I'm going to come through with mixes and combinations of the two all the way through. That's a nice rich dark burgundy orangey color that's coming through here where the sun is. It's picking up the warmth. Going to use it through here too. Look how rich that is. But then I can come down all the way down through here like this and start bringing in some of the blues, which will turn that mix even darker. The reason I can get this so dark is that I am using, in effect, transparent colors. If these were opaque, then all I would ever get would be a brown or a gungy brown, because the opacity of the color will reflect the light and therefore reflect the surface, and therefore they will not appear dark. Whereas transparent colors, of course, they allow you to the light to go through the body and their mass, and therefore they appear much darker. I'm just going to block in this area very quickly here, like so, and maybe one or two areas of scratching it in. This is not good for the brush, they don't really like it, but I'm just going to tap one or two places through here, and we will come in with other colours, but it's just to remind me that there is a bit more going on there. Let us take this colour value, you're going to need a bit more of a mix. Take this colour value, it runs all the way along the edge of the sea, so I'm going to put a line through there like that to meet that one. And then I'm going to come in with this mass through here, and just going to take it as a sort of a line there, and this comes down here. Get a little bit more of the liquid in there just to make the colours flow a little easier across this board. Now the board is a hand painted, hand gessoed. It's not the special gesso I sometimes use. It is merely, there's a little bit of light in there, sorry I'm talking to myself as I'm painting. There is not, I don't always use the traditional gesso. This is probably the easiest and the quickest way to prepare a board for painting, and so it's the most common one that I would use and employ. I'm going to come in with some distinct yellows and orange colors into the top end here, where this is just picking. Look at that lovely orange in the sand, the wet sand where the sun is hitting, where the tide's just gone out and leaving its sort of lovely warmth and glow upon the wetness of this sand. And it's all the way across this bar. It may just disappear here, but I'm employing it and I quite like using that. Alright, so that's that, and let's come off with a bit of a cooler value through here as it comes away through this sandbar, like so, and then that will go and drift into the water further out. I've left a little bit of space for the water to be painted in, but essentially we've got the drawing here and we've got our sand. What I do need to do is come in with a deeper, darker purple colour. Now I'm going to use some magenta and the pure blue. I'm going to come all the way in and I'm going to suggest the groin in a deep dark purple value as it comes on through the drawing. I'm going to leave it there because I've got to put the posts into it, but I just want to suggest where it's going to go. It's very easily forgotten if you don't put it in quite early and tell yourself where you're going to go. Alright, so let's get back to the plot. Let's mix up some lovely yellow colours, and very subtle because they are not as bright as this. So maybe you tap in a little bit of blue to temper the orange, and that's what that will do. And you put in a very soft value of maybe a little more red than that, a little warmer. It's quickly to go one to the other, so you don't, try and get them bang on if you can, and just put that lovely muted color representation of water. You can, easier to come up from dark, it's hard to go back darker from too much light. So bear that in mind as you're putting these colors in. It's easier now. It's quite a dark value for the water, but I can always bring that up later on, and I probably will, but I just wanted to establish the sort of little rivulets, if that's the word, between the bars as the water is trying to return itself to the sea. While I've got that in, I must get this side done, so let's come across. It's quite warm. Let's play around with that a little bit, cool it down a little bit orange, bit more blue, and because we've got the red, we're going to turn it to a little bit of green, and that will temper the violet. And there you go, it tempers it down, kills its impact, and you can bring that through now as your pool, and let that come into the edge of the mud there, and once more bring it all the way through here like that to join up with the rest, like so, and take that all the way out to just touching the sea. Let the two areas blend by all means, just like that. Okay, and maybe add a little bit more pale blue colours just to the edge, just so that they fuse a little easier, like that. You're not quite sure where one starts and the other stops, but you don't want to come over that little bit of sand that's just appeared. And you can make that very shallow and narrow there, and that all the way through. It's going to pick up some of the colours, just be aware you don't do too much. Just drag that all the way through, all the way through there. Clean your brush, come back in with a fresh mix that's pale, a little bit closer to that mix there, like that, and just bring those areas together and just blend this top just even further than you had done. Take off any excess. You don't drag too much of that other warm material into your bluer colours, if that's the right word, excuse my poor English, and let that come all the way through here like so. Take out the white board completely at this point, and we have our subtle transition of the sea, and we will add some more yellow, some more pure yellows here, and we're just going to come in right underneath where that sun is. Picked up quite a bit of red, so I'm going to come back out of there, a bit more white and a little bit of the red into the yellow, and just allow that to just colour up under there. Just a suggestion that there's a lovely warmth in the sea at this point, and then we can pop some into the end here where that groin is. Merely a suggestion of light hitting, and we can actually pop that in like that. Now that is not the final colour, it's merely an indication. How many minutes we've been going? 39 minutes. We need to crack on. Right, I'm just going to look at one or two of these other marks. I'm going to warm up this area here, make it a little stronger as it comes into that dark, and it goes away. Just put it in a little dark just to soften that there through like so. And there is a little bit here that's got a little lost, so I'm going to put that back in very, very quickly, like that, and darken up this, or warm this value up here down the side and into this area, just so that we can see that there is a sort of bar of water and a strip of wet sand going into it like that. And there's one or two areas that just coming and appearing on the far side, something like that. It doesn't have to be exact, it merely needs to represent what you're trying to convey overall. And that's the beach and the light and the sunrise. Things do change, do differ. Alright, so we're in the last phase of this. We've got to do one or two things. It's still going to be a 1 hour painting, people, I'm so sorry. But hopefully you'll get something for it, you're enjoying it, and yeah, it is what it is. Hopefully we will get this finished in time, uncontaminated, and I can come in and I can suggest that there is that yellow orangey colour on the sea. Let that come through the blue just gently, and that will get a little stronger as it comes into this area here, and then a little strip of light through here which is pure and yellow and warm, and then that will come down and we'll just pop some of that warmer colour into some of these other bits here, so that you get this sort of fusion between the two and get the strength of the lovely oranges as that goes away. Now we can play around and get that yellow purity, lovely strong yellow colour. We're going to suggest a little bit of light around where the sun is, just a little bit of yellow like so, and let that gently drift away by gentle taps on the edge, and let that fuse with the surrounding reds and yellows. So that's done. Now let's do the same thing under here. Let's get that yellow in. Be careful, that blue is still going to be against you if you get this too much going on. So just bring it down through and gently tap it away into the surround colours like so. And then a little tap into here like that, So you're suggesting that the water is picking up these beautiful reflections, and then using that same orange, let's just go back up into here and let's just warm that up right up almost to the horizon, and let that cascade down in through the blue either side of your main yellow into something like that. And then just look at this color and just maybe the odd tap just each side, and it doesn't need much more than that. And now we're going to use our paler yellow. We're going to come in, we're going to use the same yellow mix here, but look, I just added some white to it. You can add a bit more yellow, but not too much. You may need to come back in like I've just done with a bit more white, so you're making a little puddle of different yellow values, and you're going to plonk some right in the center of your sun here. This is probably the brightest color you can make, and we're going to put that in. If we can make it just a tad whiter, maybe with a hint of yellow in it, we will just get away with a bit more. You're not going to do too much more than that, and then just a little tap into there, there, and there, and just one or two little suggestions, not much, there and down there. That's all it wants. Now while we've got this color, let's just put in that little corona of cloud that's just catching the sun there. Put that in. It is very white yellow, so I'm going to put a little tap in like so, and there's one just the other side. Just tap it off, soften it like that, and then we can come back in with some of these other values of oranges and paler yellows, and we can start drawing. Now you can do this with this brush if you wish to, or indeed if you feel happier, go to a rigger and use your rigger to do the same sort of job. You might find it easier, and what I will do is I'll just put those brushes to one side and use my mole stick, and I will just gently come over and simply draw some of these little marks in of the Vapour Trails that give this little sky its character. And there's one or two straighter lines that come through this way, and they're going to get paler, so you can bring in a paler color, make it more fluid with a bit more zesty or spirit, whatever you're using, and you're going to come in with one or two other little marks like this. Don't worry at all if your marks are different to those in the picture. These Vapour Trails are moving, they are changing, so don't worry about it. I am just putting some general marks in as they come up. Now the colors get pale, so when you've finished the lower ones, let's just put in a little mark through there like so, and one or two this way, and one coming up through there like that. So it makes it definite what they are, even though mine are different to the photo. They're based on the same ones, but they may alter, and I'm not too worried about any of that. I'm just going to put a little like noughts and crosses really. Okay, I think that's enough low down, but now we've got paler ones, so what I'm going to do is just wipe off. I need to give myself a little bit more room just up here. Take some of this earlier mixes off. I don't think I need them anymore. Very, very quickly, this is the last little bit I think we need to do. Just come back in with some of the bluier white like that, and a little bit of zest it to make it flow. Maybe a little bit more. Now you've got to be a little careful with this because you can overdo it, but let's just put in some of these whiter marks that come away and up into the blue sky as it were, and then they will come down. They will start to change to yellow as they come down, but then you've got these beautiful marks like so. Just make sure they're nice and firm, but they will, as they go on, and you know, as the older they are, of course, the more diffused they become. Just going to put one up like that. It gives a lovely diagonal space going up into there, like so. and take that all the way down like that. Now I did say that as they come down here, they get that little yellowish tinge as they come down. That can be replicated very, very nicely. Let's take that little darkness out of that one, just a little bit. Picked up a bit of the blue as it came through. That allows me enough light just to pop in a little bit of yellow into that. There you go. I think we can get away with that one. And I think we're pretty much done. I'm just really going to see if I can pump in just a little whiter, yellowish whiter dot into there to make our sun really exciting. Just very, very gentle. Little tap. I don't want to do any more to that at all. Right. Last thing. Our groins. So we go back quickly into making our purpley colour, and let's just draw in our groins that are 1, 2, they're very close together there as they come back. You can barely see them at this stage. They are there, but they're going to get bigger and wider apart as they come closer to us, like so. And then there was a very, very, very pale colour that is the water that lies all the way alongside them as it goes into the puddles, as it were. So I'm going to suggest that now as it goes down and almost disappears, and we can bring and marry just a little bit of this into a little bit of that to suggest that the two areas are connected, like so. I think that's fine. Alright, I think we're done. And so much so that I'm going to be happy. I'm just going to put a little signature over here, like that. There you go. So, now then, here's the thing. Lovely little sunset, or sunrise, sorry, did forget. This will have to dry over the next few days. It is a 10-inch by 12-inch painting, and I feel that it's going to be on one of my support artist pledge. So look out for it. Don't know when it's going to be there because I don't know how long it's going to take to dry. But in that case, look out for it. And if you want to buy it, it's going to cost you £200 plus the postage, which is free in the UK and 50/50 overseas. So look out for it if you fancy owning it. That little sales pitch over. I do hope you've enjoyed this. I did want it to make it a smaller, quicker painting. It's so hard to do that when you want to give something of a bit of quality to you to understand and learn from. But this was not so much about the sunrise, but it was about how you can make this wonderful painting, beautiful colour with just 3 colours, which are the process colours, or as close to as you can, and that is magenta, cyan and Indian yellow, or a yellow. And or if you use Michael Harding's colours, then it will be magenta, phthalo-cyan blue, which is exactly the same, and Indian yellow, and those colours will just stand you in good stead. And I will be using them very extensively over the coming months, and just playing around with those and just seeing how far I can really push that palette. So yeah, enjoy. Happy painting. I hope you have a go at this yourself, and don't forget, everybody, that if you want more, there is more to be found on my Patreon page, including a tier at just $25 that not only gets you all the stuff that's in Patreon, but it also gives you one-to-one conferencing with me at least 2 times a month, whereby we can talk, debate and help you through any particular work you're working on. So by all means, the description and the details to see my Patreon are in the description below. Take a look at that, have a look, and if you fancy getting involved with any of it, you'll be so welcome. And with all that said and done, last plug is the fact that I do 2 YouTube streams each week, one on a Monday, one on a Friday. Both of them are at 7 p.m. GMT, British Standard Time, summertime, whatever that is. Join me then. Every Friday it's a watercolor, and every Monday it's not a watercolor, it's something else, oil, charcoal, whatever I fancy painting in. And in addition to that, my patrons get an extra exclusive stream on a Sunday evening. So all in all, a lot happening with me, Paul Apps Fine Art. So get involved with some of it, especially if you're in lockdown, you paint pictures, you want to learn a bit more, then hook into what I'm doing and see what's on offer from me. And I'd be pleased to answer any emails you wish to send to me regarding any questions related to what we've just been speaking about. And don't forget the Instagram. If you fancy owning a bit of art from me on a temporary price while we're in lockdown, grab yourself a bargain. All right, take care everyone, and I'll see you all next Friday for a new video. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but I look forward to it, and I'll see you all then. Bye bye for now. Bye.